teams like Josh Allen and Myles Garrett. But for more on what's to come today, let's go ahead and welcome in our own NFL lead insider, Jonathan Jones. JJ, it is so great to see you. Plenty of moves yesterday, plenty more to come. Let's start with what is top of mind for you right now.
Oh my gosh, so many things running through my mind as we hit noon Eastern. I have my AirPod in to listen to the texts that are coming in. I got my earpiece in to listen to you, Jordan. Look, here's something that is happening right now in real time that I know it's going to sound funny, but Twitter, or X, as some call it, is down right now. And that may not mean anything to some folks listening at home. That may be a joke between us right now. But NFL executives, I've gotten a number of texts where like, oh, wow, this is happening, because that's how they're getting so much of their news. That is how they're learning that these guys are signing for this. And that's important because while they may find out that they have missed out on a certain player directly from the agent, they may not know what the market just got set at somewhere else. So let's take, for example, a J.C. Horn getting a $25 million per year deal. That impacts teams that are looking for cornerbacks, right? That impacts a Carlton Davis who could wind up with the Jets or the Jags. Earlier today, I heard Carlton Davis could be somewhere in that $17, $18 million per year range, but that was right before J.C. Horn's $25 million per year deal. So now does his number move up to 20, right? How does that impact a DJ Reed, right? You can go down the list of all these corners, but that just impacted the market. Khalil Mack signing back with the Chargers on a one-year deal. The Washington Commanders really wanted Khalil Mack, and they thought that they had a great shot at him. So did the Chicago Bears. But that deal getting done just ahead of the start of the legal tampering window opening. So that's what we're kind of dealing with right now, is that with this app that we all kind of post our updates on, that is actually a huge lifeline for so many in the NFL to help determine markets. So if it were going right now, we might be seeing deals fly off the shelves. Right now, though, 2 minutes in, things are quiet.
Yeah, things are quiet. We were wondering here on set why our phones weren't buzzing away. I'm sure you were as well. But JJ, we are off to the races. Not a great start, but we will lean on you throughout the course of the day, not just the next hour here on CBS Sports HQ for the very latest as the legal tampering period is officially open for NFL free agency. As we get you back on set, I'm Jordan Giorgio alongside Lijay Duzable and Pete Prisco. Is yours working over there, or
No.
are you just getting some messages?
It's not.
Mine's working on and off.
This is absolutely insane. Pete,
I got
Are
a
you old school way?
teletype coming in like the
you got
old
like
days.
a pigeon coming or something. All right, we actually, you guys, this is going to be a fluid situation because we're going to lean on JJ here for all of the latest, and I'm hearing that we have some breaking news. JJ, what do you got for us?
Yeah, perhaps some breaking news. We didn't yet talk about the offensive line market. This is a market that is going to go nuts because these guys do not fall off of trees, right? But one of the worst kept secrets around the NFL is that the Kansas City Chiefs are in need of a left tackle. Things are happening right now. One name that I would keep an eye on is Jalen Moore, previously of the San Francisco 49ers, I guess quite literally still of the San Francisco 49ers for at least officially 2 more days. But that is a name I would keep a close watch on. Also, Dan Moore Jr., he may get some top of the market deal at tackle somewhere. So I did want to just maybe set the stage at offensive line. Drew Dahlman, the center for the Atlanta Falcons. He is a guy who has a lot of interest out of Seattle as well as out of Chicago. And then the last name, Will Fries, offensive lineman for the Indianapolis Colts. He is someone to keep a close watch on who could go to the Giants. He could potentially go to the Minnesota Vikings. We're talking about $20 million or more per year in average annual salary. So right now, starting out offensive line, everyone's trying to fill it out. That's sort of where we're looking at right now.
All right, JJ, thanks so much for setting the stage. We will come back to you with any breaking news that you have for us, but just your reaction to some of those names and the potential suitors.
I like JJ heard like the market was going to be out of this world for a guy like Dan Moore, who's been the starter at left tackle for the Pittsburgh Steelers, was a late round draft pick and really developed there at Pittsburgh. But you know the thing that really helped guys like Dan Moore and Will Fries? Alaric Jackson signing back to the Rams. Ronnie Staley signing back to the Baltimore Ravens. Those were the top of the market guys, and they didn't get to hit the free agent market. So guys like Dan Moore get pushed up the board. You know this, Pete. Guys, front offices always have a list of guys, right? And one guy goes off, they scratch it and go to the next guy. So guys like Dan Moore, Will Fries will be paid handsomely because those other two guys re-sign with their teams.
It's funny, Dan Moore is going to get out on the market and get a nice contract, and the Steeler fans wanted him benched all year long. And for the last couple of years, he's been what most people would consider an below-average offensive tackle. Played better this year. Jalen Moore, who the Chiefs are interested in, as JJ said, left tackle, backup left tackle. Played this year because Trent Williams was hurt. A young player, but that's the kind of player you look to add to your roster. The Dahlman to the Bears thing, and we keep hearing that a lot. And talking to some people around the league, I don't know if that's a fit because that's not their style of offense. He's a wide zone guy, and that's not what they want to do. So it's a little bit different. One thing I did hear from talking to people around the league, the guard market is going to be outrageous. There is going to be a lot of guards getting paid top dollar. And it goes back to teams want to run the football. And if you're going to win in this league, you have to block the interior pressure. And we saw with the Eagles, they won with interior pressure. We saw them win by blocking and getting the run game going. So I think that's something that teams are going to try and emulate in this free agency.
We'll continue to harp on the offensive side of the ball and any news that JJ brings us. But we are hearing for the defensive side of the ball, actually, Haason Reddick is headed to Tampa Bay. That is per Adam Schefter on ESPN. 1 year, $14 million deal reportedly. Let's go ahead and check in with JJ. Can you confirm that, JJ?
Yes, it is a $14 million deal for 1 year for Haason Reddick. We know him, of course, from the Philadelphia Eagles, know him from the Jets. That protracted, weird sort of thing that was going on last year finally comes back, plays decently. This is a 1 year, $14 million deal for Haason Reddick, who obviously this was something that had been in the works for some time. Drew Rosenhaus, his agent, he's a guy who just, look, he's a straight shooter. You need a deal done. That's what you get done. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers adding to that edge rusher position there for them. 1 year, $14 million for Haason Reddick.
All right, let's get it back on set here. Your reaction to that news?
Well, me and Pete have talked about it. They need somebody to pair with Yaya Diaby. Now, the only thing is Haason Reddick missed a good portion of last season, and it didn't bode well for him. He was holding out, hoping to get one of those bigger extensions, and he ended up having to sign a tweaked deal for 1 year with the New York Jets, and it just didn't seem like he had his footing under him. So I wonder now that he's got this deal done on day one right now. Again, none of these are official till 4 p.m. on Wednesday, that he'll be there throughout the whole offseason program. Will he get back to where he was? I mean, he's a year older, Pete, and that's the only concern I have right here with him signing to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yeah, he didn't look focused last year. I mean, look, when you miss time and you're not there, you're not focused. He came in, didn't look like he was, and he left. But let's be honest, he left money on the table.
He did.
I mean, this is a 1 year deal for him, and so if you're the Bucs, you're looking at it. Hey, he's going to come in, he's going to try and prove himself and go get a new deal the following year. So from that standpoint, it makes sense. Joe Tryon obviously hadn't worked out for them, and so they're going to move on from him, and so this is an upgrade for a year. But like you said, he's not a kid. You got to worry about that when you sign these older players.
All right. Well, Haason Reddick headed to Tampa Bay, linebacker, 1 year, $14 million deal reportedly, as our own JJ confirms. Jonathan Jones, we're going to go back to you because we are hearing that a name that we were just talking about, Jalen Moore. We have some movement on that front. Can you confirm?
Yes, indeed. What we just talked about. Oh, wow. Big surprise. Jalen Moore going to the Chiefs. Jalen Moore, who was just with the San Francisco 49ers, he is signing a deal with the Chiefs. I was told that it would be in the mid-teens. I know that the report out there is a 2 year, $30 million deal. I was an English and history guy, but that checks out to 15, which is mid-teens, and so that is accurate. Jalen Moore, he is the new left tackle for the Kansas City Chiefs. This was a position that, of course, they had been struggling with last season. It didn't work out with DJ Humphries. They moved Joe Thuney outside from inside, and it worked up until it didn't in the Super Bowl, of course. They're probably going to slide Kingsley Suamiata inside to left guard, and so that's going to be the left side of their offensive line. You're going to have Jalen Moore out there. Then you're going to have Suamiata, who struggled outside. Now they move him inside, played very well in that Denver game there toward the end of the season. And then, of course, you have Creed Humphrey manning the middle there at center. Back to you.
All right, that was a crucial move for the Chiefs to make. Just how important was it for them to get a guy like Moore to really replace Thuney?
Well, I think Pete alluded to this earlier. This is a young ascending player. He was going to be like the swing tackle for San Fran, but because Trent Williams got hurt, he was thrust into the starting lineup. So Andy Reid is looking like this guy still has his best football in front of him. Now, again, they signed Jawan Taylor, and they thought that was going to be the case, and it hasn't worked out. And because of his contract, he will be there for one more year. But you're hoping with Jalen Moore, like the upside is going to be there at left tackle, and hopefully he can solidify because they've really struggled at that left tackle position for the last few years.
And it makes them a bigger line. They're bigger. You move Suamiata inside to left guard. It's a big line now, and everybody's trying to again look at the Eagles. They play the Eagles in the Super Bowl. You look at the Eagles when they walk off the bus. They're gigantic on the offensive line, and teams want to try and get to that level, and I think that'll help them. Look, is he an all-pro left tackle? No. Is he improvement? You bet, and he's got potential. Their problem right now, if you look at that line, is the right tackle who they paid a boatload of money to, Jawan Taylor, and they can't do anything about it. He's got to be better. But the offensive line, as constructed right now, is much improved because of this signing and moving Suamiata inside the left guard.
All right, it's a 2-year, $30 million deal reportedly for Jalen Moore as the Chiefs sign that offensive tackle, a big need for them this offseason. Let's get back to a team that's making moves right off the bat here. That's the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We are hearing that Chris Godwin is returning. We will wait the actual details of the deal, but this is something that I think we were all wondering this offseason if it was going to get done.
Yeah, for sure, because he's coming off an injury, but the first 7 weeks of the season, he was like top 3 in every statistical category, and this is a guy that has been a consummate pro there. Now, I believe Pete, he's still only 28 years old, if I'm not mistaken, so still pretty young. Now, they have a kid in Jalen, what's his last? McMillan, that they really like, so that's what was kind of surprising about this. I was trying to see if they were going to turn the keys over and make him the bona fide number 2. Let's not forget, Mike Evans is getting up there in age, so maybe this is where they want to sign Chris Godwin to an extension, and then in the future, he's your number 1 and Jalen McMillan is your number 2.
In talking to people around the Bucs at the Combine, they wanted Godwin back, but more than that, he wanted to be back. He likes Tampa. He likes being in that area. He would have had options on the market if he got out there. There were a lot of teams, receiver-needy teams, that would have made a real strong play for him. But going back to Tampa makes sense for them. You mentioned it. Mike Evans isn't a kid anymore, but you play with 3 receivers this year. You have a 3-man set that you can get the ball out. Baker Mayfield should have put up big numbers in this offense. I love this move for Tampa Bay. I think Godwin is the consummate pro. They know that. He likes the system. He likes the organization. It makes sense.
To your point, there wasn't a quarterback that was better at quick game than Baker Mayfield, and that's where Chris Godwin did most of his dirty work, in the slot, right? That's where he can hurt teams. So I like what your head is at, talking about the 3-man set out there with Jalen McMillan, Mike Evans, and Chris Godwin. They're running that back. That was a very explosive offense. Plus, when you add a guy like Bucky Irvin in the backfield, I think this is a great signing by the Bucs.
And by the way, remember the year before they moved him outside, and he didn't play as well. It's not his natural position. They moved him back inside again, and then he was leading the league in receiving right up until the point when he got hurt. So I think it's a much better position for him as inside.
Buccaneers fans very happy right now to get this deal done. And by the way, we are hearing that is a reported 3-year deal with $44 million in guaranteed money. As a former player, can you just believe some of these deals and the money that is being thrown around for players to really re-sign right now? How much of a player's market is it?
It's definitely a player's market. I kid with my mom all the time. She had me too early, right? Because the market is out of control now, and you know they're adding more money to the cap each year. So the TV deals are bigger. So now there's more money that has to be allocated to the players. So we just saw J.C. Horn, and we haven't even talked about that yet. He's the highest paid cornerback in NFL history at $25 million. And this was kind of like the first season he was actually healthy this year. So that just lets you know where the market is for players right now.
But it also tells you the way this market is going so far. teams realize that their best free agents might be their own, and to try and keep them off the market. A lot of teams are being proactive. Like J.C. Horn, they didn't have to do that. They did it because they're being proactive to keep them off the market in future years or prevent a franchise tag coming his way. So I think you look at some of these guys going back to their own teams. Right. I think that makes sense, and that's where this is headed. Look, free agency is not what everybody thinks it is. It really isn't. It's not an end-all, be-all to fix your roster. No. It's to supplement your roster. If you're using free agency to fix your roster, then your roster's a disaster.
To your point, you build through the draft, right?
Yes.
And you supplement with free agents. That's why it's kind of head-scratching and puzzling that Cincinnati Bengals have not locked up their forefront players, right? Their foundational pieces. Because to Pete's point, when you draft somebody and you develop them into a frontline starter, you reward them. That's what you're supposed to do. And you talked about the teams getting ahead of it. J.C. Horn, right? We see the Philadelphia Eagles do this all the time. They sign guys a year or two out. That way they don't have to worry about them hitting the free agent market or worry about stressing going into a contract year. But yet the Cincinnati Bengals, their two top receivers and their best pass rusher have not signed extensions yet.
And the price has gone up because the receiver market, the numbers have gone up, and the pass rush market, the numbers have gone up. That's why you do it earlier rather than later.
And it's a great point you made, because I feel like teams are preparing to have to overspend right now in NFL free agency. All right, we have to take a quick break, but more from us when we return on the other side. Keep it right here for all the NFL news, highlights, scores. It's all here, and it's all free. CBS Sports HQ. Back in a moment. Welcome back to CBS Sports HQ, where our live coverage this morning of the legal tampering period has officially begun. As you take a look at the 2025 NFL free agent tracker, as we are monitoring all of these deals, the very latest you see there, center Drew Dalman headed to the Bears. For more on this, let's go ahead and welcome in our lead NFL insider. It's Jonathan Jones, who will be with us the course of the day. JJ, what are you hearing on that front?
Yeah, so we had told you at the top of the show that Drew Dalman had quite a market, was not going to be returning to the Atlanta Falcons because, frankly, his play had priced himself out. Perhaps the Atlanta Falcons should have planned better last offseason and signed him to an extension then. Instead, he was going to always be the highest paid center in this free agent class. And so when you looked at it, his market was Chicago, his market was Seattle. We are still waiting on the exact numbers on this deal, but no question about it, Drew Dalman heading to the Chicago Bears. You had a quarterback in Caleb Williams who got sacked 68 times last year. Some of those were on the offensive line, some of those were on Caleb Williams. You have a new head coach in Ben Johnson, who just came from a place that had a top 1, top 2, top 3 offensive line in the NFL. And so the first thing that he was going to do, along with Ryan Poles, the general manager, who was a former offensive lineman himself, was get a better offensive line. And so they trade for Joe Thuney, they trade for Jonah Jackson, they get Drew Dalman. They have now solidified the middle of the offensive line, the interior of the line, to help Caleb Williams, the franchise, operate more efficiently and better. Some of this is going to be on Caleb Williams, breaking the huddle faster, getting to the line a little bit better, not snapping the ball with a half second left on the play clock. But what is going to help him is not getting hit as much as he did last year. The Bears doing incredible work over these past couple weeks, solidifying the interior of their offensive line, and they are now signing Drew Dalman, the best available center in free agency.
All right, JJ, thanks so much. We will come back to you when we get the final details worked out on the numbers of that deal. Just how important was this piece of the puzzle for Caleb Williams and company?
Well, Shelton, their center, he's an impending free agent, so they needed to fill that void. And if you know anything about Ben Johnson, he wants to be physical in the trenches and run the football. That's what they did in Detroit. That's why they traded for Joe Thuney. That's why they traded for Jonah Jackson. Now they get the top center on the market, but me and Pete were just having a discussion. It'll be interesting to see, schematic-wise, does he actually fit? Because what made him so good with the Atlanta Falcons is his quickness and be able to get to the second level in the zone scheme. Well, Ben Johnson wants to run the ball downhill and run G scheme and power. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
You know, because I thought he was a real option for Jacksonville, and talking to some people, that was one of the things they said. He didn't fit. He's not a fit for their power scheme, and so it didn't make sense for them to get a guy like that. So I asked around, and some guys around the league, and I said, what about Chicago? And they said, not really a fit there either. But sometimes good, smart coaches make it work. Yeah. And Ben Johnson, this is going to be a test of him to see if it works. On the surface, and I'm going to play devil's advocate here, on the surface, it looks like the Bears have cured their interior line problems, and they were woeful last year on the interior of the offensive line. The right guard is going to be Jonah Jackson. He was hurt last year, and when he played, he wasn't very good. Okay? Now, he was good with the Lions. Ben Johnson knows him, so that maybe he can bounce back. Joe Thuney is 32 years old. Not only that, you're going to have to pay him.
He wants an extension.
He wants an extension. So it's not like you gave up the pick, you get a good player, but now you're going to have to pay him. So that's a problem as well. And then Drew Dalman, does he really fit in their scheme? So I'm playing the devil's advocate on the signings, but I agree they had to get better. And this makes them better.
And to that point, Braxton Jones, there's a lot of question marks about him, right? They still could draft a left tackle in the first round. So Ben Johnson might not be done because they actually have some pretty good pieces on the outside when you talk about from the skill position, more specifically. The offensive line is where the woes were. Now, obviously, it means they're going to lose Tevin Jenkins in free agency, and he'll actually probably have a nice market as well. He's more of a road grading, run blocking guy as well. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't want to bring him back, knowing that Ben Johnson wants to be physical in the trenches and run the ball.
One other thing, when you look at this team and we talk about Caleb Williams has to get out of I'm back at USC ball, particularly now that he has an offensive line. He turns a lot of clean pockets into messy pockets by getting out of that pocket and then creating a problem for himself. He did it a lot last year. He's got to get out of that, and I think this will help him kind of settle in and stay there. You stay in the pocket as much as you can. 1, 2, 3, 4, check it down, then get out. With him last year, it was 1, I'm looking to get out. out, I'm moving around, I might make a great play, or I might get a sack 15 yards behind the line of scrimmage. It has to stop that, and I think this will help alleviate that.
All right, we will go ahead and leave it there as we await some more of those details from that move. Falcons center Drew Dahlman headed to the Chicago Bears. Here's a look at some of the upcoming NFL dates to know. Of course, we are with you live today, all day on CBS Sports HQ as the negotiating period officially begins. Wednesday, though, important to know, and we talked about this, none of these deals actually final until Wednesday at 4 p.m. when, of course, the new league year opens. And then March 30th, the NFL owners meetings in Palm Beach County at the iconic Breakers Hotel will begin through April 2nd. And then, of course, the NFL draft. First round begins April 24th. Much more from us on the other side. Well, the legal tampering window is officially open in the NFL, but that didn't stop some blockbuster moves over the weekend and a couple of monster extensions. The Seahawks are set to send DK Metcalf to the Steelers, where he'll sign a deal, making him one of the highest paid receivers in the entire league. Speaking of money, though, how about Josh Allen and the Bills agreeing on a record-breaking contract and Myles Garrett becoming the highest paid non-quarterback in the league. Now, we're going to grade some of these moves happening today, though, with our own Pete Prisco and Leger Duzable. And, guys, we go ahead and begin with Chris Godwin, who is headed back to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lige, what do you give this grade?
I gave it a B- just because the ascension and growth of Jalen McMillan. I thought that Chris Godwin would maybe price tag himself out of this deal. And also, he is only 28, but he is coming off the injury. So I think it's a really good signing. I didn't give it an A just because the money that was allocated to him. Again, they have some young players that are willing to step up and could be part of the future for the Bucs. But it's a good signing. I don't think it's a great signing.
I gave it a B+.
Okay.
Look, I think getting a veteran back in that offense is important to them because he's such a good guy around that team. Yeah. Baker Mayfield loves him. It gives him a 3-receiver group that's probably as good as any or close to it. With the way I feel about McMillan, I think he's going to be a star. So you add this group together, you can run the ball, the offensive line. You look at Barton's going to be that much better, a year better. I think Mark at right guard is going to be a year better. Their young players are getting better. This offense has the makings of being one of those that can go up and down the field. And I think this adds to it. It makes sense. He wanted to be there. I give it a B+.
My question mark is another player that's ascending for them, Cade Otton. He really came on strong when Chris Godwin got hurt. How does this potentially affect him?
Yeah, I mean, look, he's going to catch the ball in the middle of the field as well. I think all those guys, look, you can never have enough weapons. And they felt like getting Barton last year kind of fixed their offensive line. Now they have Bredesen as a left tackle. I mean, the left guard is an unrestricted free agent, so they have to decide what they're going to do there. But I think
extended him.
They are extended. Yeah. So they extend them so that their line is set now. So they're good across the board.
Well, the Buccaneers were busy early on today. Another addition, Haason Reddick, headed to Tampa Bay, reported 1-year, $14 million deal. You're only giving this move a C+ here, Pete. Why isn't it higher?
Well, because of what happened last year, in large part. He's not a kid anymore. And so, yeah, look, when a guy doesn't want to play, there's that kind of, look, I get it. It never works out. Did it work out for him last year? No. And so there's always that kind of red flag for me. That's why. If he comes in, he's focused, he realizes, look, this is a 1-year deal. I can go prove myself and go get a bigger contract next year. Then I think it could be good for the Bucs. But I think there's a little bit of risk there for them in this one.
Yeah, I believe I gave it a B-. I think there's some synergy between him and Todd Bowles. Let's not forget, going back to when he was with the Arizona Cardinals, Bowles was the defensive coordinator, and people were wondering what Haason Reddick was. Was he an off-the-ball linebacker? Was he an edge guy? Well, Bowles made him an edge guy, and he had a career year, and then he went on to have a career year back-to-back-to-back years. So that was kind of the beginning of his ascension. Now, to Pete's point, right, he's in his 30s now, missed most of last year. You worry about him getting older and missing that much time of football. Does it affect him going forward? But this is a 1-year prove deal, so Haason Reddick can prove that he can go out there and still be effective at getting after the quarterback and maybe get a re-up after this year.
You know what's great about it, though? It gives them a 4th guy. Now you have Yaya Diaby, you have Haason Reddick, you have Vita Vea, and you have Kalijah Cansey on the middle. That's a 4. You can go after the quarter. You know, Todd Bowles is crazy with a lot of the blitzes he does, but sometimes you might not need to do that as much if you can get pressure with those 4.
Let's stick here with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before we get to some of our other grades. What more do they need? What are some of the other needs for the Bucs here as you kind of look for more free agency, of course, of the draft, as they look to really make a deep run in the playoffs?
They have to get another corner, and I think they'd like to get another playmaking safety to go with Winfield in the back end.
I was going to say the secondary has to stay healthy, and they do need at least one more corner.
All right, let's go ahead and get to the Bears now, who go ahead and pick up Drew Dalman. You are both kind of on the same page with this, giving it a B grade. You a B- though.
Yeah, and it's to what we talked about earlier, Pete, does the scheme actually fit the player? Right now, again, Ben Johnson's one of the smartest offensive coordinators in all of football, and I'm sure schematically he'll get it to work. But just looking at his history with the Detroit Lions, this is more of a G scheme. And when I say G scheme, they like to run counters, power, downhill, physical run game. And Drew Dalman, his best asset is that he's quick, right? He can get off the line of scrimmage and get to the second level and get to linebackers in a zone scheme. So that's my only concern with it. I believe Ben Johnson will make it work. And there was a precipice on making sure he had a physical offensive line. That's why that interior 3 is different from what it was last year, because he wants to win these ball games in the trenches.
Yeah, when he was with the Lions, he had Ragnow, was a physical center. Dalman is not that. And so, you know, how is he going to respond when you put a big nose on him? I mean, that's the key right there. Can he move him in the run game? And if he can't, because he's one of those guys, like you said, you play in his own scheme, you get off him, you get to the next level. When you've got a man on your nose in the power game, you got to handle that guy. So that's why we kind of both agree that it's a little bit of a downgrade. I mean, it's not a downgrade. They had to do it.
Correct.
They had to get. He's the top center on the market. It's just how are they going to make it fit in their scheme?
Scheme-wise, yeah.
All right, we'll see if that grade gets boosted a little bit as we look to next season. Let's get to the Chiefs here, who go ahead and pick up a crucial piece of their offensive line in Jalen Moore. You're giving this a B as well.
Because they have to address that position, and I think this will kind of get them going in two spots, because I think, you know, moving Sumatia inside the left guard, that becomes a power side of that line. It's a big physical side, something the Chiefs haven't had over there. You know, Tooney's been a really good player, but you had never really had that good left tackle over there since Orlando Brown back in the day.
Yeah.
So I think they solidify their offensive line, and the biggest concern now is right tackle, and so it's still a major concern, but it's a better offensive line. It'll allow Patrick Mahomes to stand in the pocket more. He got sped up last year, and that was a problem for him.
This single position of left tackle cost him the Super Bowl last year, because Josh Sweat had his way with Joe Tooney, who was out of position. He's an all-pro guard, and they slid him out to left tackle. So getting a guy like Jalen Moore, who has high upside, who, again, was a swing tackle, and last year was his first year truly starting. You talk about the upside of him, getting him at $15 million a year. You think they would hopefully develop him. Now, they have struggled with development with Wanye Morris and Kingsley at left tackle. It hasn't worked out for them. Both of them were second-round picks. Hasn't worked out. But Jalen Moore, as much as he played last year because Trent Williams was hurt, you would hope his ascending talent kicks in, and I believe the Chiefs feel like his best football is in front of him.
I love moving tackles that don't make it or aren't fast enough to quick enough to handle into guard. You look at the history of this league, some of the best guards have been tackles who have moved inside. And I think, you know, you look at that, and I think this is a good move from that standpoint for the Chiefs. Tooney was one, by the way.
This is true. We'll go ahead and leave our grades there. Reminder, you can catch all of the latest NFL news, highlights, all the latest scores. It's all here, and it's all free. CBS Sports HQ. For more of some of the latest NFL news coming down as the legal tampering period has officially opened with NFL free agency beginning, we go ahead and turn things over to our own Jonathan Jones. JJ, what are you hearing?
So Javon Kinlaw, who was with the 49ers, and then he went to the New York Jets this past year, had 4.5 sacks for the Jets. He has agreed to terms with the Washington Commanders. It is a 3-year deal for Javon Kinlaw, reuniting with Adam Peters. He was an executive with the Niners, now, of course, the general manager of the Commanders. And so Javon Kinlaw is joining the Washington Commanders. This is a group that, of course, parted ways with Jonathan Allen. They have solidified the interior of their defensive line. They drafted Johnny Newton last year. They extended Daron Payne around that same time. And so now adding to the middle of their defensive line by inking, or at least agreeing to terms, I should say, with Javon Kinlaw to go to Washington.
All right, JJ, that is some big news, but I want to bring it back on set here because not a great look from you two. Why don't we do a live grade here on set?
I mean, the thing about Javon Kinlaw, up and down with his gameplay, right? That was the issue. That's why he didn't resign in San Francisco. He was a guy that was in the top 10, and he was supposed to come in and take over from when DeForest Buckner got traded, right? Which are big shoes to fill because DeForest Buckner is a Pro Bowl, All-Pro type player, right? The thing is, he's a big human being, very athletic, plays a little too high sometimes, but Adam Peters has the familiarity with him because he was the assistant general manager when San Francisco drafted him. So I was just surprised to see the number. It was 3 years, $45 million, so $15 a year. Again, JJ alluded to it, 4 sacks last year. Usually, guys, unless you're getting consistent pressure, you don't get that type of number, but that's where the market is right now.
That's a big number for him. He hadn't played to that number, I can tell you that. He hasn't played to being a first-round pick. It's weird in this league. Something that always bothers me is like just because you drafted a guy, you got to go back and get him. And we see coaches, you coached them at some place. Now I'm going to go back and get. Well, why? Why do they feel they have to do that?
The funny thing is, I talked with a former GM, and he said a lot of times GMs feel like those are their projects, right? And they're going to always give them opportunities if they move to another place. And I think that's the fine line as a GM. You have to figure out when it's time to move on from a guy, even though you took him maybe in the first round or in the second round and it didn't work out. Now, again, I think Javon Kinlaw can play football. Again, and I'm glad that he got paid $15 million because I love that it's a player's market, but I was just surprised to see that number when it came out.
All right, we'll see how good of a fit this is, but let's go ahead and go back to Jonathan Jones, who has some big news out of the Bengals, excuse me. We have a big resigning, JJ.
Yeah, we certainly do. You almost said Chicago Bears. They signed Drew Dalman at center. I'm actually told just now Drew Dalman actually turned down even more money from other teams to wind up signing with the Chicago Bears. Shows how much he believes in Ben Johnson and believes in Caleb Williams. I know that the guys on the set couldn't even believe the number that he got, but no, it's even more money, I'm told, from reliable sources. In Cincinnati, finally making some transactions, signing B.J. Hill to a 3-year, $33 million contract. That's averaging $11 million per year for B.J. Hill, who has been there the last 4 seasons. This is going to be his aged 30 year with the Cincinnati Bengals. He had 3 sacks this past season, 4.5 the year before. Finally, the Bengals are doing something. We know that they got Mike Gesicki, but this is something that the Bengals, my goodness, with all of their issues. There's Jamar Chase, who they were willing to make the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Well, waited a little too long for that, and the number keeps going up. They have T. Higgins franchise tagged. That number keeps going up if they're ever going to sign him to an extension. Trey Hendrickson, he has a trade request that is out there. I do know that there is interest around the league. We'll see if a trade ultimately gets done over these next 2 days, but at least the Bengals taking care of the interior. They're taking care of one of their own, finally, with B.J. Hill, whom the way that this group does contracts, I would imagine it is a 1-year, $16 million deal when you consider the guaranteed money. And then we'll see. The Bengals usually don't pay guys any more guaranteed money outside of year 1. So that's the latest with the Cincinnati Bengals finally getting someone paid. It's B.J. Hill.
All right, big re-signing for Cincy there. JJ, thanks so much for joining us. Stay put. Plenty more to come as you take another look at the important upcoming NFL dates. Of course, today, live coverage all day on CBS Sports HQ as the legal negotiating period officially begins. None of these deals official until 4 p.m. on Wednesday, though, when the new league year begins. Let's get you some updated HQ headlines. The Carolina Panthers and cornerback J.C. Horn have agreed to a 4-year extension worth up to $108 million. That's according to our own Jonathan Jones. The deal includes $70 million in guaranteed money and makes Horn the highest paid defensive back in NFL history. Over in college football, Bowling Green introduced new head coach Eddie George earlier this morning. The former Heisman winner makes a leap to the FBS after a successful 4-year stint at FCS program Tennessee State. And George intends to keep up his winning ways with the Falcons. Take a listen.
We own the fact that, hey, we are here, but we have an opportunity to do something great about it. This is going to bring us together stronger. That's the choice that we have to make. And then we're going to find out who the leaders are that are going to emerge from this. Because I have every aspiration and intention on winning the MAC this year. That is the goal.
And in women's college hoops, UCLA jumped back to the #1 spot in the final top 25 before Selection Sunday. The Bruins beat USC for the Big Ten title, knocking the Trojans down to the 4th spot. South Carolina defeated Texas for the SEC tournament title and moves to #2, while the Longhorns fall from #1 to 5 as you take a look at the college basketball AP Top 25 poll for the women's rankings. Here's a look at the top 10. UConn remains #3 heading into tonight's Big East Championship game against Creighton. After winning their first Big 12 title, TCU rises to #6. The highest ranking, by the way, in program history, and ACC champion Duke is at 7, followed by Notre Dame, NC State, and LSU. Quick break for us, but when we return, we're on automatic bid watch. It's officially that time. A number of programs are hoping to win their way into the NCAA tournament field with a conference championship win. Chip Patterson gives us his picks next.